Let's start the presentation. Okay. Uh, Today we are going to learn hydrodynamic bearing, the parametric analysis of hydrodynamic bearing, typically journal bearing, dimensionless number, selection of journal bearing. Today we are not going to see. We are going to see in the problem set, when we will be learning the problem. So we are covering the first two parts. Uh, Dimensionless number, that is parametric analysis of hydrodynamic bearing. So here you can see one such diagram. The journal or the shaft is rotating inside the bearing surface. Bearing surface. In between journal surface and bearing surface, there is a lubricating oil. So this under the action of this rotation of the journal or shaft, this oil will flow around this journal, and this is a fixed bearing. So if you have to consider a control volume, a small control volume, you can consider here having dx and dy thickness. So that rectangular control volume is shown here. So which will be subjected to different forces. So we have learned in the fluid mechanics, whenever there is a fluid flow between two layers, fluid molecules, there is a shear stress developed, and the force acting on that surface will be shear stress. So, so there will be pressure force normal to the surface, and there will be tangential force that is called as shear force. So there will be forces in both. So there will be, see, this is the shaft. So this Z represents the axial direction of the shaft. Y is the radial direction, and X is the direction in the flow. The X is the direction in the flow. So this control volume will be subjected to forces in X direction, Z direction, as well as Y direction. So Y direction, there is no motion, so we will not consider the forces in Y direction. The motion of the fluid will be basically in X direction, that is in this direction, that is rotating around this. So at this moment, if I draw a direction here, it is X direction, a tangential direction, and Z direction is an axial direction. This fluid molecule can come in this direction. Radially going outside will be limited because they are restricted, they are confined in the radial direction. So the flow in the radial direction, Y direction will be minimum. So major flow will be in the X direction and Z direction. Okay, so let's go to the analysis. One such analysis we have seen in the previous session, that is this diagram I am representing here. So, to go to the basics of this Petrov equation, we have considered the journal surface, the shaft. Then there is a lubricant here. This is the bearing surface. On this, there is a radial load of W. This is the length. The radius of the shaft is this, and we are assuming shaft is having distance, that is clearance on both sides. So this is the radial clearance, and rotating at revolutions per second, ns. So considering that you all learned, we have seen this content. So we have found out the coefficient of friction. This equation we have learned, that is equal to 2 pi square r by c mu ns upon p. So in this, r is your radius of your journal, c is the radial clearance, mu is the viscosity of the lubricant, ns is the speed of your journal, and p is the bearing pressure. So that is bearing pressure. This pressure in the bearing concept is also called as unit bearing pressure. Unit bearing pressure. So this unit bearing pressure depends upon radial load and the projected area of the journal, which is supported by the bearing. The projected area which is supported by the bearing. So if we look at this equation, this equation is called Petrov's equation. The coefficient of friction value is not constant here. Is not constant here. It depends directly proportional to the radius. If your radius is bigger, the coefficient of friction value will be more. And if your clearance value is small, then again the coefficient of friction value will be large. So if you have transition feet or say interference feet in the shaft, then your shaft may not be rotating, or it will have metal to metal contact, the C will be minimum. So in case of transition fit or clearance fit, precision clearance fit, so in such cases, there is a chances your coefficient of friction will be very high. So this value, C value, depends upon the type of fit. Uh, this question was asked by one student in the last two sessions. So, is there any effect of the clearance on the selection of bearing? Yes, there is a effect. If there is a minimum prescribed clearance is not there, then this coefficient of friction value will be very high. He was asking for interference fit. In the case of journal bearing, there is no interference fit. There are only two types of fit, that is clearance fit and transition fit. In the transition fit also, there should be minimum clearance fit, so that minimum clearance will again will have a higher coefficient of friction. So as we decrease the clearance, the coefficient of friction value increases. Then again it is directly proportional to the viscosity. If your viscosity of the fluid is higher, again the coefficient of friction will be higher. If your speed is higher, again your coefficient of friction will be higher. Now inversely proportional to P. So if your pressure value, say unit bearing pressure value is more, then your coefficient of friction value is less. But if your unit pressure bearing pressure value is small, then your coefficient of friction value will be high. So selection of bearing pressure, selection of right lubricant to maintain that viscosity at that temperature, the speed, application speed, radial clearance, and the radius of the shaft decides the friction value. So for every application, even for same application, if we change the speed also, then the coefficient of friction value also changes at that location. So it is very difficult to use Petrov's equation in the analysis of journal bearing. Therefore, we need to use a different approach. So what we have shown in the previous diagram, we need to use this control volume technique. And in this control volume technique, if we try to solve this equation by applying differential equation, then we can arrive at this solution. But this part is not part of our design analysis. It is given in the book. You can refer. This is part of the fluid mechanics analysis. I am just writing the final summarization of this. So if you go to the third slide, here you have this journal bearing, groove type journal bearing. So this is a special type of journal bearing. So if we consider a small control volume here, having say this clearance at this moment, say h, the tangential velocity of this shaft is say capital U, and if you apply this equations here, so if you consider, I have told, if you consider equilibrium of forces acting on control volume in x and z direction, and solving this equation will give you the differential equation. The solution of this the equilibrium forces in x direction and z direction. I have shown the x and z direction. If you can go and refer to the first slide, you will come to know which are the x and z direction here. So this is your control volume here. So this is dx and this is dy. So the y direction is radial here. So y direction is radial here. H direction is tangential. And z direction is axial. Since the radial clearance is very, very small, so we can assume there is no pressure changes in the radial direction. So the forces in the radial direction, variation of the forces in the radial direction is minimum. It's very minimum. So we need to consider the force variation in tangential direction and axial direction, that is in x and z direction. Okay. So if you write down these equations, so here one is such equation is there. So on the left side of this control volume, the pressure force acting is P into dy dz. So if you move by distance dx here, then the pressure will change here. So area is same dy dz. So pressure will be changed by 3 plus dp by dx into dx. Now this dp by dx may be positive, may be negative, depending upon the situation. So based on that, the pressure on this right side control volume, control surface will be there. If we consider this at radius r, the shear stress acting may be tau, and the area is dx into dz, axial direction. This is axial direction, dz here. So dx into dz. If you move from this surface to this surface, area is same, dx into dz. What is changing is tau. So shear stress on this surface now, tau plus delta t by delta y, delta tau by delta y into dy or delta y. Now this delta tau by delta y may be positive or negative depending upon the situation, prevailing situation. So here the shear stress value will change, and this will cause imbalance on this control surface. These forces will cause imbalance on these forces. So if you consider equilibrium of these forces in x direction, so this is the diagram for x direction. Similar diagram will be for z direction, that is forces in this direction, in this direction, in this direction. So if we consider another control volume in which if we consider the force in on this plane and backside plane, that is the z direction. So if you write down the equilibrium of that forces and solve that differential equation within the control volume, so the solution we get, that solution is written here, that is delta by delta x into h cube delta p by delta x plus delta by delta z into h cube delta p by delta x. Actually it is delta p by delta z here. Here it is delta p by delta z is equal to 6 mu into delta h by delta x. Now h is defined here. We are going to define h it again in the next slide. So now this equation, how to solve this equation? This equation is called as Reynolds equation. The above equation is known as Reynolds equation, and there is no exact solution available. Exact analytical solution is not available to this equation. It is like this equation is unsolvable, but this equation can be made solvable by applying certain conditions. So there is no exact analytical solution for this equation for finite bearing with finite length. If we take the bearing having a finite length and finite diameter, then you will not have an exact solution available. So how to proceed then? When you don't have exact solution available, we can find out the approximate solution of this equation, and that approximate solution under certain circumstances can be used in the design or selection analysis. So theoretically, exact solution can be found for infinitely long. Where we can find out exact solution? If your bearing is infinitely long or very short bearing. So either your bearing should be very short bearing, or your bearing should be infinitely long. So under these two conditions, the solution is possible. Exact solution, analytical solution is possible, and these solutions are called Sommerfeld solution. This is a scientist name, Sommerfeld solution. So we are going to learn the Sommerfeld equation here. We are going to use Sommerfeld equation to solve this problem in future. Okay, so let's go to the parametric analysis of this bearing with a detail on the next diagram. Okay, so I'm repeating each and every term here so that you can answer. So let's consider a journal bearing with shaft concentric with bearing and subjected to light load of W. So we are considering this is your bearing surface. Okay, this is your journal or shaft surface. Now initially this will be at the center and it is resting at the bottom. So when this shaft is not rotating, we have seen in a hydrodynamic bearing, it will be resting at the center point. This O will be O dash will be somewhere here, and this surface will be touching at this point, exactly at the this point, bottom point here. Once it starts rotating, the pressure will be developed in the lubricant present here, and this pressure will leave this shaft by a certain distance, and it will shift either leftward or rightward depending upon the rotation, rotating direction of the either clockwise or anti-clockwise. The shaft will be shifted. The shaft center will be shifted either leftward or rightward depending upon the position, with minimum film thickness formed at particular angle. Minimum film thickness formed. So this H0 is called minimum film thickness. So let's understand each and every term in this thing. So we are having radius of journal. So with the center of the shaft, this is the radius of the shaft. So this radius is called as radius of journal. Then L, length of the bearing, that I have shown in the previous diagram, length of the bearing, that is bearing length which is supporting the shaft or journal. Then we have radial clearance. If you take this O dash at the center point, then there is a clearance around, equal clearance around the journal surface. That clearance is called as radial clearance. So if you take the radius of your bearing as capital R and radius of your shaft as small r, so difference between capital R and small r is called as radial clearance, small c. Then this shaft is rotating at say revolution per second or RPM. So RPM can be converted into revolutions per second by dividing by 60. So let's say it is rotating at revolutions per second, say ns, small ns or capital ns. So I am using interchangeably. Sometimes I'll use ns, small n, or I can use capital N also. Okay, so these are the very important parameters for this shaft rotating in a journal bearing. Now let's define certain dimensionless parameters. So I am defining one such dimensionless parameter is called as eccentricity ratio. Now why I am defining eccentricity ratio? When the shaft is rotating, the center line axis of the bearing, that is point O, axis of the shaft which is at point O dash. So when they are rotating, they are not aligned. The shaft axis is away from your bearing axis. The shaft axis is away from bearing axis. So we need to define how long it is. So for that we define eccentricity. So the radial distance between the O and O dash point. O is the axial point of bearing and O dash is the axial point of your shaft. That radial distance E is called eccentricity. Now this eccentricity, how much maximum eccentricity will have? Maximum eccentricity may be equal to your clearance value, radial clearance value. So this E value will be always less than clearance value. So if you define a ratio between your eccentricity value and maximum available clearance value, so that ratio is called as. So the eccentricity ratio epsilon is defined as the ratio of eccentricity to radial clearance value. So this value, considering O dash point and O point are same, the radial clearance value, and when O dash is shifted from away from O, the distance between O dash and O is E. So if we compare these values, this E by C will be maximum equal to 1 or E by C will be always less than 1. So eccentricity ratio will depend value, this value will be between 0 to 1. So this is a dimensionless parameter number to define the performance of distance here, to perform the distance and the fluid film thickness here. Okay, so referring to this figure, I can write down what is the bearing radius R. So what is the bearing radius R? Bearing radius is from distance from O to the bearing surface here. So this radius is again here. So this distance, what is this distance? O. So this distance I can write, this is nothing but E plus R plus the film thickness here. So the bearing radius capital R is equal to your eccentricity plus your radius of the journal or radius of the shaft plus your minimum film thickness available in this diagram, at this diagram here. So minimum film thickness at this point is H0. So this will give you the capital R bearing radius, where H0 is the minimum film thickness. H0 is the minimum thickness, E is for eccentricity, R is your already defined radius of journal. So from this, I can write down, we know clearance C is equal to, this I have told, it is nothing but R minus R. Okay, so if I put the value of R here, the value of R is E plus R plus HO0. So I will put this value here, E plus R plus HO0. So R minus will get cancelled out. So the clearance value is now, equal to E plus H0. Okay, now I can put the value of E here. What is the value of E from this equation? E is equal to epsilon C. Okay, so I am putting this value of E here, that is epsilon C into H0. Okay, so I have now C is equal to epsilon C plus H0. Okay, let's take the C terms on one side. So this term I will take on this side and remaining term I will write here. So I will have C minus epsilon C is equal to H0. So C is common, so I have taken C common outside. So C into 1 minus epsilon is equal to H naught. And as I told, epsilon is equal to maximum equal to 1, and the value ranges from 0 to 1. So epsilon value is equal to 0 to 1. So the clearance will be either minimum clearance. When we'll have minimum clearance, that is when your C is equal to H naught. That is when your C is equal to H naught, then you will have minimum clearance, so eccentricity will be 0 there. That is your film thickness will be maximum. And when epsilon is equal to 1, your minimum film thickness H naught value is equal to 0. So there is a metal to metal contact, and that should be avoided. The H naught should not be equal to 0. So from that, we can write down eccentricity. So eccentricity to epsilon is equal to, from this relation, that is equal to 1 minus, this C will be taken on this side, so 1 minus H naught by C. Now this is another variable, and this is very important variable in the analysis of your journal bearing. So H naught by C, now H naught is minimum film thickness, C is your radial clearance. So it is a relation between film thickness value and radial clearance value. So this is called as minimum film thickness variable. So this is a parametric variable, that is H naught by C, is called as minimum film thickness variable. So your eccentricity ratio depends upon film thickness variable, or film thickness variable depends upon your eccentricity ratio. So they are complementary to each other. So if one is increased, other value will decrease, and one value will be decreased, other value will be increased here. So eccentricity ratio and minimum film thickness variable, they are complementary to each other because their summation is equal to 1. Please remember, epsilon plus H naught by C is equal to 1. This is very important. If you know this, then you can find out H naught by C. This is very critical value. Now, as per the exact solution, you can, this is a solution for say infinite length of your bearing. So S is equal to R by C square into mu ns upon P, where S is your Sommerfeld number, it is a dimensionless number. R by C is again a dimensionless number. Mu NSP, this I have already told, this is a characteristic number that is called bearing characteristic number. This is called bearing characteristic number, mu ns by P. And most of the properties are plotted across x-axis, mu ns P on x-axis, and remaining properties can be plotted on y-axis. So this is a bearing characteristic number. Again, this is a dimensionless number. So all these are dimensionless numbers. So parametric analysis in the journal bearing is done to get a dimensionless number, dimensionless solution. So when you use a dimensionless solution, irrespective of the size of the bearing, you can use this equation and you can solve and you can get the required analysis done using the dimensionless number. So S is the Sommerfeld number, mu viscosity of the lubricant to be taken in Newton second per millimeter square, speed to be taken in journal speed revolutions per second, pressure, unit bearing pressure to be taken in this equation Newton per millimeter square, radius of journal R to be taken in millimeter, clearance value to be taken in millimeter here. All these values should be taken in millimeter or appropriate unit. So you will get the Sommerfeld number. Now, if you look at this diagram here, your radial load W is acting at the center line of the shaft here, and this load makes an angle with a minimum film thickness point. So if you plot this line here, so this angle is called as phi angle, and this angle is very, very important in the design or selection of the bearing, because it decides the stability of the bearing. Otherwise, your bearing becomes unstable, and if your bearing becomes unstable, then your shaft will start vibrating. The shaft will start vibrating. To avoid vibration, this angle has to be appropriate. So this angle is called as the angle of eccentricity, because it is related to the eccentricity distance. So it is called as angle of eccentricity or attitude angle. And it is important that this angle is dependent, this maximum angle phi will depend upon, it locates the position of minimum film thickness variable. It locates the position of minimum film thickness, that is H naught. So it is associated with H naught, or it is associated with H naught by C. So this angle is very important. If this angle is very large, यहाँ पे आएगा, थोड़ा सा भी radial force आएगा, तो ये shaft इधर touch होगा, and then it will start wobbling. So this angle has to be tabulated. These angles are tabulated. I will show a table for this phi angle also. So this angle is also important while designing or selecting a journal bearing with appropriate clearances. Okay, I think you may have learned this concept here. Please remember, analysis of journal bearing is quite complicated. It involves subjects like strength of material, it involves fluid mechanics, it involves theory of machine. All these topics are covered there, and the physical material properties of the bearing is also covered here. So let's go to the next continuation of this analysis. So in this continuation of analysis stream, once you know the Sommerfeld number, you will have table. And what are the table content? I am explaining one by one. One such table content is called as coefficient of friction variable. So it is deeper. I already shown one Petrov equation. F is equal to say 2 pi square into R by C square into mu n S by P. That is called Petrov's equation. You can determine the coefficient of friction by Petrov's equation, but it is very difficult to always measure these values and determine the coefficient of friction. So to determine the coefficient of friction, the standard tables are used, and for that standard table, a dimensionless number called coefficient of friction variable, that is CFV, is used. So when I use this bracket term here and write some certain thing inside this, then it is not C is not different, F is not different, and G is not different here. It is in a common term. So this common term CFV is called as coefficient of friction variable. To understand this is a common term, I am using bracket here. I am using a bracket here. So this is called as coefficient of friction variable. It is another dimensionless parameter which is associated with coefficient of friction. So how it is associated with coefficient of friction? It is associated with your R by C ratio, geometry ratio. R is the radius of journal, C is your radial clearance, which is the geometry ratio. So it is a dimensionless number, and F is a dimensionless number. Coefficient of friction value is a dimensionless number. So F value is your coefficient of friction. In other books, mu is used, but since mu we are using here for viscosity, so since I cannot use mu here, so I have used here F as a coefficient of friction. So this coefficient of friction depends upon R and C here. So if I multiply by R by C ratio to the coefficient of friction value, so I will get a CFE value that is called coefficient of friction variable. And there are the table values available for standard geometry of or standard Sommerfeld number. For standard Sommerfeld number, CFE tables are available, and from that CFE table, you can determine the friction value. So not to use the Petrov equation, you can, if you know the CFE value, you can determine the coefficient of friction value. Okay, so you can determine coefficient of friction from this. Now, once you get this value, next step is to determine the frictional torque. So we know frictional torque is equal to your normal force. So what is normal force? So normal force is W. Then what is the frictional force? Frictional force is your product of your coefficient of friction into normal force, that is F into W. Now I want a torque. This is the frictional force. So torque is equal to force into radius. So FW is your frictional force. So if I take radius of journal, so FWR becomes your torque, that is frictional torque. So the frictional torque in Newton per millimeter per second is equal to FWR. Now this is a frictional torque. And now because of this frictional torque, there will be loss of the power, and therefore frictional power or power lost in friction, frictional power, I can multiply by this torque as a mechanical power. So 2 pi ns into your torque value. The torque value here is FWR. So this value I will get, this is in millimeter. So I want this value to be converted into watt. So I want this value in meter. So I am multiplying by 10 raised to minus 3. So 2 pi ns into FWR. This is torque. Converting into power, you have to multiply by 2 pi ns. That is omega. This is omega. Now since this value is in Newton millimeter, I want to use in meter here. So I am multiplying by 10 raised to minus 3. So you will get the frictional power in watt. Sometimes this frictional power will be large, so you have to convert into kilowatt. So again, divide by 10 raised to minus 3 will become as 10 raised to minus 6. Therefore, the power loss in the journal bearing due to friction, this is the power loss in the friction, or it is the power rating for friction there. The power rating for friction for that bearing, that is kilowatt, frictional power loss in kilowatt here, will be this formula 2 pi ns FWR. Now 10 raised to minus 6 I have taken here down, so it will become as 10 raised to 6. So this is in kilowatt. this much amount of power will be lost in the friction here. Okay. Now the fluid is flowing there. The fluid is circulating around that journal. The fluid flow is around that periphery of that journal. So how much fluid flow is flowing? That is Q. Total fluid I am flowing is, I am assuming it's a Q. So it will depend upon various parameters. So to define that parameter, another dimensionless number called flow variable. So bracket the term, it is not, F is not different and V is not different here. It is called flow variable. So another dimensionless number is defined, that is equal to flow variable, that is equal to Q upon RCNSL, where R is your radius of journal, C is your radial clearance, NS is your revolutions per second speed, and L is the length of the bearing. And Q is your total flow rate around the periphery of your bearing. This is your, say, journal diameter. How much flow is flowing around this periphery, that is called Q. So this flow rate, so where L is the length of the bearing and Q is the flow of the lubricant. Now, if you use this equation, so you will get this flow rate in terms of millimeter cube per second. You will get this flow rate in terms of millimeter cube per second. You can convert into liters per second, or you can convert it into meter cube per second as per the requirement. Okay. Now, your flow is around periphery. So what happens? It is flow in the tangential direction. There is chances that if your bearing length is short, there is a chance that this fluid may flow along the axial direction. So there will be side leakage. When the flow is happening in the axial direction, then it is called side leakage. So the next line I am writing here, the Q represents the total flow of the lubricating oil. This is the total flow rate, out of which a part of fluid will flow around the periphery of the journal. It will flow around the periphery of the journal, and while remaining oil flow out as a side leakage, QS. So in the axial direction, QS will happen. So many times, if this leakage is open to the atmosphere, say if this bearing is, we are not recirculating this oil, suppose it is going waste, so we need to supply additional oil there. So we need to know what is the amount of side leakage QS, and for finite bearing length, this QS is large compared to the infinite bearing length. So QS depends upon whether your bearing is finite or infinite. So for finite bearing, the determination of QS is very important. Again, we will have dimensionless number here, QS by Q. So the side leakage can be evaluated from parameter QS by Q. Again, this is a dimensionless number. This dimensionless number is also given in the table. I am showing a table there for understanding. First, learn one by one. Similar, another parameter is called maximum pressure. The maximum pressure normally happens around minimum film thickness. It is not exactly at minimum film thickness, I am telling. It is around minimum film thickness. So sometimes it is very important to know what is the maximum pressure developed in the fluid. So this relation can be written in the form of P by P max, another dimensionless number here, because the unit is Newton per millimeter square. Here also Newton per millimeter square. So it is another dimensionless number. So you will have a large number of dimensionless parameters based on your Sommerfeld number, based on this Sommerfeld number, based on your eccentricity ratio, or based on your H0 by C value. Either of these two values, you will have a large number of parameters which are called dimensionless parameters, and these are tables. I am showing for your understanding purpose. I am showing one such table. There are number of tables. I am showing one such table here. Can you see this table? Okay, so this is a table. L is the length of your bearing. D is the journal diameter or shaft diameter. So when your L by D is greater than 1, when your L by D is greater than 1, it is called as infinite length bearing. When your L by D is less than 1, equal to 1 or less than 1, then they are called as finite length bearing. So you will have L by D equal to 1, L by D equal to 1 by 2, and L by D equal to 1 by 4. So you will have these relations. So standard relations of L by D. There are the possibility you can use L by D equal to 3 by 4 also, but it becomes a non-standard geometry. So standard geometries are L by D equal to infinity, L by D equal to 1, L by D equal to 1 by 2, and L by D equal to 1 by 4. Based on that, you may have your epsilon, that is your eccentricity ratio. I already told when your eccentricity is equal to 0.1, h naught by c equal to 0.9, the addition of these two should be equal to 1. They are complementary to each other. So either epsilon or h naught by c, if you know, so you can determine the other value. Then there is a Sommerfeld number here. And based on this h naught, epsilon, h naught by c and Sommerfeld number, you will have different dimensionless numbers here. This is your CFV, that is R by C into F, that is coefficient of friction variable, Then this is your flow variable, that is Q upon RC NSL, that is FV. Then this is the side flow variable, Vs by Q, and this is the pressure variable, P by P max. So these are very important dimensionless parameters, and the values of these parameters depends upon your epsilon value or h naught by c value and s value. As I already told that attitude angle or eccentricity angle again depends upon these parameters. So this is your attitude angle. So you can see this attitude angle has to be less than 90 degrees. If it is greater than 90 degrees, then your bearing will start oscillating and it will create vibration. So we need to have this high angle always less than 90 degrees. So that these tables are given. So such tables are available with journal bearing for various variety. This is I have shown here dimensionless performance parameter for full journal bearing. This is for full journal bearing with side flow. So there will be without side flow. There will be with say partial journal bearing. Instead of full journal bearing, this table will be available for partial journal bearing. Now there, I have shown one diagram. If we go to the diagram here in the presentation, if you go to the presentation diagram here, I have shown one diagram here. Here, I have shown here one journal bearing here. This is the bearing surface here. And at the center of the bearing surface here, I have created a oil groove. We have created an oil groove. So this is called as journal bearing with oil groove at the center. So there will be separate table available for journal bearing with central oil groove. And this geometry of the oil groove is also important while analysis. So there are number of table available in the PhD data book. So based on the understanding of your problem, you have to select right table for the right parametric analysis. That's why I'm saying it is a parametric analysis of the journal bearing. Very important. Once you calculate epsilon correctly, once you calculate Sommerfeld number correctly, then rest of the thing is very, very easy. Okay, so I think you have understood how to refer that table. I have shown one sample table. There are so many tables available. So you have to use right table. And I have used here radial clearance concept. In the PhD data book, there is a diametral clearance concept. When we solve the problem, there is no much difference between radial clearance concept and diametral clearance concept. We will solve accordingly from the PhD data book. Let's go to our remaining topic here. Okay, so we have learned here till now journal bearing analysis. We have learned here. Now, when there is a friction, there is a loss of power. Now, where this power is going? Let's go to the next slide. Now, when the frictional work is there, so this frictional work is converted into heat generation, which will be converted into the heat, and this heat generation will cause increase in the temperature of the bed. Now, assuming that total heat generated in the bearing is carried away by the oil flow. This is a theoretical analysis. So, but in actual practice, the total heat generated, some of the heat generated will be conducted, radiated through the bearing material to the atmosphere, and remaining heat will be carried away by the oil. But for better understanding and say simplification of the problem, we are assuming that total heat generated in the bearing is carried away by the total oil. So how much is the total power loss in friction? This much. Kilowatt is equal to 2 pi ns AWR upon 10 raised to 6 in terms of kilowatt. So this much amount of heat is lost. In this equation, if I put the value of F here, what is the value of F? So value of F can be determined by the coefficient of friction variable. F is equal to R by C into F. So if I take that R by C on this side, so F is equal to C upon R into CFE. Okay, this value we can put. Similarly, we can put the value of your radial load. Value of radial load will depend upon your unit bearing pressure. So W is equal to 2PLR or PLD. So 2 will be 2R is equal to D. So PLD or 2PLR. So you can put the value of W and value of F in this equation. So you will have heat generated here. You will have heat generated. This equation will be written here. That is equal to 4 pi RC NSLP into coefficient of friction variable upon 10 raised to 6. So this is the heat generated in kilowatt. This is the equation 1. Now this heat is taken away by oil. We are assuming that this entire heat is taken away by the oil. So heat carried away by oil is say HC, which is given by m dot into Cp into delta T. Say m dot, I have not written m dot dot here, so it is m dot. It is the mass flow rate of the oil. So m dot is the mass flow rate of the lubricant here in terms of kg per second. Cp here is the specific heat of the lubricating oil, and delta T is the temperature rise in degree Celsius here. Okay, so if you put this if you say we are normally using a lubricating oil of certain density, and the Cp value for most of the lubricant is not much changing there. So if you note the values here, so I am considering these values here. So if you the mass flow rate of the oil can be written as rho Q into 10 to minus 6. Since we are using Q here in millimeter cube per second, so to convert into kg per second, and this thing rho will be used in gram per centimeter cube. So to convert this everything, we are multiplying here by 10 to minus 6. Then again we have to put Q. Q is equal to, this is by flow variable. Flow variable is equal to Q upon RC NSL. So therefore Q is equal to RC NSL into flow variable from previous slide. So you can put this value in this equation of HC here. So HC equation will be equal to Cp into delta T will be remaining same, and M will be, M you are putting rho into Q. Q you are putting this value Q here. So this becomes as rho RC NSL into Fe into 10 to minus 6. And if we consider steady state condition, we have done heat transfer. So when we reach a steady state condition, heat generated in the system should be carried away or heat dissipated. So heat generated is equal to heat dissipated or heat carried away. So if we compare equation 2 and equation 1 here, Hg is equal to Sc, and from that we can determine delta T. So delta T is equal to now here 4 pi P upon rho Cp into Cfv upon Fv, that is coefficient of friction variable, upon flow variable. Now in this equation, in most of the lubricant, we know specific gravity is around 0.8 or 0.86. Cp value is again is a constant for most of the lubricant for a particular temperature range up to 80 degrees Celsius. This value is equal to 1.76 kilojoule per kg per kilometer Celsius. Now if I put these values in the equation 3 here, so 4 pi upon rho and Cp. So these are all known values. If you find out this product division and product here, so this comes as 8.3. So delta T is equal to 8.3 into P into Cfe upon flow variable. So for given lubricant here, having rho value approximately or Cp value this much, delta T can be 8.3 into P into Cfe upon Fe. So from this, you can determine the average temperature of the lubricant or outlet temperature of the lubricant depending upon the inlet condition. So the average temperature of the lubricant oil flowing here, T average will be equal to Ti, that is the inlet temperature of the lubricant, plus delta T divided by 2. So this is very important because most of the properties we will use as the mean film temperature. So mean film temperature or average temperature of the fluid will be T average. So you will determine viscosity at average temperature. You will determine kinematic viscosity at average temperature. Any other property will be determined at average temperature. So this average temperature is important there, and this average temperature should not cross a particular level. Otherwise, there is a large change in the viscosity value. If there is a large change in the viscosity value, so to maintain that, you need to maintain a sufficient flow rate. We need to maintain sufficient flow rate, that is flow variable should be high. If your flow variable is high, then your delta T is low. So to maintain this flow variable, so to maintain this Q value higher here, your side leakage should be minimum. Your side leakage should be minimum. So to maintain the side leakage minimum, you should have a proper length. It should not be very infinite length. You should have a proper length, that L by D should be appropriate. So when we are seeing the problem next time, we will be going through all the design and selection parameter, and one along with the problem, we will learn everything there. So this is regarding today's analysis of journal bearing, very important. I will show one this thing also, the fluid mechanics solution there. This is not part of syllabus, but those sometimes it is asked. Then you can go through this from the your Bandari book. You can see this solution here, how that Reynolds equation is arrived, how the Reynolds equation is arrived. So these are the assumptions made in the Reynolds equation. This is the diagram taken, and this is the control volume taken. Then you have taken the, you can take the equilibrium in x direction. This is the equilibrium diagram in x direction. Then you can go for okay, so equilibrium diagram here. Then there numerous solution is available, and based on that solution, you will get that differential equation that we have used, and then we have solved. Okay, this is regarding today's lecture. I have finished the presentation from my side. If you have any query, so you can ask. If you have any, or you can type in the chat box also. If you have query, you can ask.